Are Jamaican employees getting cheated because they don't understand their rights when it comes to layoffs and redundancy? Welcome to episode 144 of The Unequal Perspective.
That is a heavy question to start the day. But, it's the necessary one right now.
It really is. And just so everyone's clear, we are sticking strictly to the book today. According to the Jamaica Observer and the Laws of Jamaica official website, we're going to try and get to the bottom of this. I'm Sarah, and I'll be your guide for this session.
And I'm Matt, here to help break down some of the legal complexities.
And we can't forget Rich, who's managing the soundboard today, making sure we sound, crisp.
A crucial job today, Rich, definitely.
So looking at our sources, why is this topic just everywhere right now? My whole newsfeed is just full of this anxiety.
It's the context. It's all about the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. We've all seen the reports. Businesses are dealing with damaged premises, no power, just completely disrupted operations.
Right. It's chaos. You've got business owners just trying to figure out if their building is even safe to enter, let alone trade in.
Exactly. They're waiting on insurance adjusters, regulatory checks. It's a mess.
But that's where the problem is, isn't it?
It is, because while the business owners are stressing about the physical assets, the bricks and mortar,
the workforce is just left in this limbo.
a really uncomfortable limbo. They're at home wondering, do I still have a job? When's my next paycheck coming? Am I fired, or are we just on some kind of break?
And that's the core tension we need to get into today. It boils down to two words people use. Well, they use them interchangeably all the time.
All the time.
Layoff versus redundancy.
And they are, legally speaking, vastly different. And mistaking one for the other isn't just a simple mistake.
No.
It can mean serious financial loss for an employee or huge legal risks for an employer who thinks they're being clever.
In a casual conversation, I would definitely say, oh, I got laid off to mean I lost my job for good. That's how it works in the movies, right?
Right. But legally, here in Jamaica, that is not accurate at all. Under the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payments Act, those two words mean almost opposite things for the future of your job.
Okay, let's unpack this. Start with layoff. In my head, that sounds like the end. But what's the strict legal definition?
So a layoff legally is a temporary suspension of work. Temporary is the key word.
Okay, temporary.
It happens when there's a shortage of work, like after a hurricane when a factory has no power and the employer sends you home without pay.
Right, without pay. That's the part that hurts.
It does. It's a huge financial hit. But here's the crucial distinction you need to get your head around.
Okay.
The employment relationship, your contract, it's still intact. You are still an employee of that company.
So I haven't been fired?
No. You just aren't working, and you aren't getting paid right this second.
So it's like a pause button, not a stop button.
That's a perfect analogy. It's a pause button. Your tenure is still building, you're on the books, but the cash flow has just stopped.
I get the concept, but why is this even allowed? It feels a little unfair to just stop paying someone if they're still technically your employee.
Well, the law recognizes that businesses face crises where the money or the work just isn't there. Post-Hurricane Melissa is a textbook example.
Sure. Storm damage, waiting for insurance, needing some government authorization to reopen.
All of that. Or even just a dip in demand. If tourists aren't flying in because of the storm, a hotel doesn't need its full staff.
So if the law made them keep paying full salaries when revenue is zero, they'd just go bankrupt.
Immediately. So the law allows the employer to say, look, we can't pay you right now because we can't operate, but we want you back when we reopen. It's a preservation tactic.
Okay, that makes sense on paper, but
Yeah.
can an employer just keep someone on layoff forever? Just leave me on pause for a year while I'm trying to make ends meet?
No, absolutely not. That would be completely abusive. And this gets to what we call the realistic prospect rule.
Realistic prospect.
Yeah, there's an underlying assumption in any lawful layoff that there is a realistic prospect that you, the employee, will be recalled.
So if the building is just a pile of rubble and the owner has no money to rebuild, they can't just say, you're on layoff.
Exactly. If there's no plan, no funding, no realistic hope of opening the doors again, it is not a layoff. It can't be. You can't keep someone in limbo if the job is actually gone.
Okay, so there has to be hope, but hope doesn't pay the light bill. Is there a time limit? Because temporary can mean very different things to different people.
Thankfully, the law doesn't get philosophical on us. There is a very, very strict statutory limit. And this is probably the most important thing for our listeners to jot down.
Okay, hit us with it. What's the clock?
The limit is 120 days.
120 days. So
Right.
Roughly 4 months.
Effectively, yes. Now, the phrasing in the Act is a little strange.
How so?
It mentions a maximum of 120 days within any single 13-week period.
Wait, hold on. 120 days in a 13-week period. 13 weeks is what, 91 days? How can you have 120 days instead of 91 days?
I know, it sounds like a riddle, doesn't it?
That's mathematically impossible.
It is. The phrasing is a bit archaic, and it confuses a lot of people, even HR pros. But the way the courts and tribunals interpret it, they simplify it. Basically, if the layoff goes beyond that 120-day threshold, the employer's protection is gone.
So the practical takeaway for me, the employee, is just that number, 120.
That's the clock you need to be watching.
Okay, so I'm at home. It's post-hurricane. I'm on day 119. I'm broke. I'm frustrated. What happens on day 121?
This is where the power shifts completely. Back to you.
Oh.
On day 121, the employee can choose to treat the layoff as a dismissal by reason of redundancy.
So I get to walk in and say, time's up.
You do. The pause button automatically becomes a stop button, but a stop button that pays. It triggers all your entitlements to money.
Okay, that feels like a good safety net, but I have a feeling there's a catch.
There's a nuance. We call it the safe harbor myth. A lot of employers think, great, I have 120 days of safety. I can just sit on my hands. That is wrong.
Why, if the law gives them 120 days?
Because it's a maximum, not guaranteed free pass. Let's say on day 30, the business owner gets the news. Insurance denied the claim. They are never reopening.
Oh, wow. So they know it's over.
They know. If they know that on day 30, but they keep you on layoff until day 120 just to avoid paying you, that is unlawful.
So the realistic prospect is gone.
It's gone. And the moment it's gone, the layoff has to end. The clock stops, and it becomes a redundancy.
Which leads us perfectly to the other side of this, redundancy. So if layoff is temporary, redundancy is permanent.
Yes. Redundancy is when the job itself is no longer required. The legal term is being surplus to requirements.
That sounds so cold. Surplus to requirements, like an old spare part.
It's very clinical, but it means the role is gone. It's not about your performance. It's about the company's needs. Maybe they restructured or downsized or relevant to the hurricane. The factory just isn't being rebuilt.
So the factory line worker job is redundant.
Correct.
Okay, now, here's something I've heard friends complain about. I'm going to call it the label trap.
Ah, yes. The old switcheroo.
Can an employer try to cheat the system, call it a layoff, when they know it's really a redundancy, just to avoid, writing that big check?
They can try. People definitely do try. But the courts here are very wise to this. There's a concept that labels don't matter to the court.
So I can't just call a cat a dog and expect it to bark.
Exactly. An employer cannot label a permanent job loss as a layoff just to avoid paying out. The tribunals look at the reality of the circumstances. If the machine you worked on is gone for good, you're redundant. Doesn't matter what the memo says.
And that matters because redundancy comes with a paycheck, right?
It comes with rights and calculations that every employee needs to know. This is where you need to pay attention because this is your money we're talking about.
Okay, let's get into the math. If I'm losing my job, I need to know what I'm walking away with. First thing is notice pay.
Yes, notice periods. How much warning you must get, or pay instead of warning. And it's tiered based on your loyalty to the company.
Okay, walk me through the tiers. Let's have people check where they fall on this list.
All right. Tier 1, less than 4 weeks of service.
So you just started, barely out of orientation.
You get 1 week's notice.
Okay, tier 2.
4 weeks up to less than 5 years of service.
That's a huge chunk of the workforce, a month to almost 5 years.
You get 2 weeks notice.
2 weeks, okay. Next.
5 years to less than 10 years. Now we're into the long-term staff.
Right, the people who know where everything is.
You get 4 weeks notice.
And the veterans, the 10-plus year folks.
10 years or more, you get 6 weeks notice.
So that's 6 weeks of pay if they tell me to leave immediately.
Right. They can have you work the notice, or more commonly, they pay you in lieu.
Yeah.
Here's 6 weeks of cash. Please go home today.
Okay, so that's notice pay. That helps. But then there's the big one, the actual redundancy pay, the golden handshake.
The big check, yes. But first, you have to be eligible. You must have at least 2 years of continuous service.
So if I've been there 18 months, I get notice pay, but no redundancy payment.
Correct. You have to hit that 2-year mark to unlock the calculation.
That's a tough break. But, okay, say I qualify. I've been there 10 years. What's the math?
The formula is 2 weeks pay for every completed year of service.
2 weeks per year. So for 10 years, that's 20 weeks of pay.
Roughly, yes. It's subject to some wage caps for very high earners, but for most workers, yes, 20 weeks of salary.
And just to be crystal clear, is that instead of my notice pay?
No. In addition, This is crucial.
Okay.
You get your notice pay, PLUS, your redundancy pay, PLS, any accrued vacation you haven't taken, PLUS, any outstanding wages.
Wow. So for a long-term employee, that could be like half a year's salary walking out the door.
It absolutely can be. It's meant to be a significant financial cushion, which, explains the motivation for that label trap we talked about.
Right, because if I'm the employer, keeping you on layoff costs me nothing. Making you redundant costs me a fortune.
Exactly. And that's a fortune for a business already hurting from a hurricane,
Right.
which is why some try to keep people on layoff indefinitely. They are trying to avoid cutting that check.
So frustrating. Okay, let's pivot to the recovery phase.
Yep.
What's your practical advice for employers who want to do this right and employees who are watching them?
For employers listening and for employees watching, it starts with record keeping.
Write everything down.
Document your assessment. Is this genuinely temporary? Can you prove you intend to reopen? You need to show that on day one, you really thought you could save the business.
And tracking that timeline.
Yes, put a big red circle on the calendar 120 days out. You cannot sleep on that date.
What about communication? I feel like silence just breeds anxiety.
Silence is the enemy. It creates suspicion. Everything has to be in writing. Employees should expect updates, even if the update is we still don't have power. Don't ghost your workforce.
And you mentioned something before about rolling layoffs. What is that?
It's a dangerous game. It's where an employer brings you back for a day to, say, clean up debris, then puts you back on layoff to try and reset the 120-day clock.
Is that even legal?
Without a clear, genuine recovery plan, it's a major legal risk. The courts see right through that. You're just delaying the inevitable redundancy payment.
So the transition point is key, knowing when to pull the plug.
Exactly. If it becomes clear at any point that the job isn't coming back, the employer has to convert the status to redundancy immediately. Don't wait out the clock. It's bad for everyone.
It really just seems like transparency is the best policy.
It always is. The hurricane wasn't anyone's fault.
Yeah.
But how you handle the aftermath, that's a choice.
So to summarize, a layoff is a pause button, temporary, 120 days max, and it assumes you are coming back.
Right.
Redundancy is a stop button, the job is gone, and it comes with a payout.
And using the pause button when you really mean to hit stop, that is illegal.
As we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away thinking about?
I leave you with this thought. The law allows flexibility for temporary disruption, which makes sense. We want businesses to survive.
Of course.
But at what point does rebuilding after a hurricane become a convenient excuse for just restructuring a business to save money?
Ooh, that is the question.
If you are on day 119 of a layoff, ask yourself, are you really an employee, or are you just a creditor waiting to be paid what you're owed?
That is a provocative thought. Are you a valued team member or just a liability on a balance sheet?
Exactly. Know your status.
Well, that gives us plenty to think about. Thank you for shedding light on all of this. It's complex, but it's so critical.
My pleasure.
And thanks again to Rich for keeping us sounding good. And thank you, the listener, for joining episode 144 of The Unequal Perspective. Hopefully you feel a little more empowered today.
Stay informed, everyone.
See you in the next one.